You know your brows need help, but you don't want to do anything drastic. I'm going to draw the 3 worst shapes that I see often on my brows, and then I'm going to show you how to fix them with just a pencil and a flamingo feather razor. So what's wrong with these brows? Nothing's really wrong. It's just that they could be so much better. Let me show you what the problem is. The problem is the starting point is right here. This flat spot right here is the way that a lot of brows just naturally grow. And then they start arching, and then they go across, and then they go down. So that's 3 different directions. You have them going up, over, and down. Ideally, you want your brows to go in only 2 directions. 1, and then just barely a dip. Okay, so here's how we clean it up with a flamingo feather razor. If you're not familiar with this tool, they are fantastic. They're like 3 for $8, $10, something like that on Amazon. They have these little guards in the blade that prevent them from being like a straight razor. And so it's pretty hard to cut yourself with. You can, but it would be really, really superficial. And sometimes just the hair coming out itself causes the bleeding more than the razor. So some of those brow hairs have been growing there a very long time. So you can expect that there might be some bleeding when you take some of those grandpas out of the ground, okay? Now, this is what you would want to use, and you use it in the opposite direction of the hair. You can go in the same direction of the hair too. It just kind of depends on how thick and how many hairs you're trying to remove. It's also really good at removing just the fine little peach fuzz on the face. And this particular brand, you can find these at beauty stores, but this particular brand I've only found on Amazon, and it has a little razor right at the top instead of a guard. And that allows you to kind of get one little hair at a time off when you need to. So the first thing you want to do is take the razor and just slide it on your forehead until you get to those hairs, and then start just gently pushing down until it flattens out that little arch that you have right here. I'm not going to do that because I don't really need to fix mine. They're just drawn on, but I'm going to show you what that looks like by taking away the marks that I made. Okay, so now you're going to have less of an arch right there, and then you're going to recreate a starting point right here. And you're like, well, am I not just filling back in exactly where I left off? It's a very subtle change, but wait till you see what happens. Okay, so you create your starting point here, and you're going to make a line straight from the top of your starting line to the arch of your brow, which should be at the outside of the iris, straight up from there. Okay, so you can make a little dot if you have to and get that line going straight, and then take away any hair that's outside of that. Then you need to clean up under here and take away some of the hair that's causing this squared off effect right here. And I'll do that with my concealer brush so that you take your point from being flat here to being flat vertically instead of horizontally. Do a little bit of finite work with your brush and your brow pencil, and you have a whole new starting point. Then you're going to want to take off this drooping tail down here. When the eyebrows droop down toward the eyelash line, it takes away lift. And so for maximum femininity, we want as much lift as we can get. So you're going to take off the tail. I'm going to do that with this, but you're going to just take and shave off the tail. Be sure that you don't shave off your eyebrows. Just very carefully do it. You can even, just to make sure you don't get your lashes in there, you can kind of work in this direction here, or you can just use that tiny tip and work that way. But we're going to get rid of that tail. And now our brows almost go in two directions. Okay. They're really just going this direction and then down, but we have a little bit of a squared off point right there. Does this shape look familiar to anyone? This is number 2, what makeup artists refer to as sperm brows. There is a head here that is rounded, and then there is kind of a skinny tail coming off of that with not enough of a fade into another shape, okay? So you've got this thickness that is right here, and then this tail that, yeah, just you get the point. Okay, we don't have to talk about it anymore. But they're really easy to fix, okay? So again, you're gonna start with your starting line and just kind of ignore what's actually there and just get a square. You may need to take your razor and take off, be careful about removing anything right here because you probably need that. It's probably underneath and on top that you want to take away so that you're not moving your eyebrows further this direction, okay? It's very important that they start above the tear duct or sooner, unless you have really close set eyes. So here is our starting point, and then we just need to fill in. So the only problem here is that it's too round and it dips immediately into a skinny tail. We want it to fade into a tail. So you're just gonna add more brow right here up to the arch and then fill it in. And then you can take your flamingo feather razor and go down here until you have a squared off. This straight edge is gonna give you a nice straight line on top instead of a hump and then a tail. All right, so you're kind of looking for more of a rectangle here and then a skinny tail than any kind of rounded shape in your brows. And in my opinion, the big arched brows, the big C-shaped brows are just not as, they just don't do as much for your face. They make you look a little bit comical and they don't give you that peak right here that provides so much femininity and so much lift. So off with the sperm brows and enter nice rectangular brows. And our third brow mistake is the pointy start. Ideally, your brows should be the same thickness all the way through this rise to the arch and then a little bit thinner in the tail. And so 2 thicknesses and 2 directions is what you're going for. So if your brows are thicker here and thinner here and very thin here, you just want to square them up a little bit by adding, again, a starting point, okay, a line. You can make that as thick as you want and just square them off. And with a nice soft pencil, you can play around with this pretty easily. Then you want to soften your start. You can also soften the start by using the spoolie and just kind of move the hair toward the nose a little bit. And that's really all that takes. It's just that when they point like this, it's like they're pointing right to your nose. It's saying, hey, look here, when we obviously want people looking at our eyes. So super easy fix for that one. And if you need to use your feather razor to clean up this shape right here, do it. And to finish off, I want to point out that letting your hairs grow back in here is totally fine. I like a cleaned up look, but it's very acceptable now to have more of a softness in here with some extra hairs growing in and have them be kind of as natural as you want. But it's not okay for that hair to start creeping up onto your forehead. And it's so easy to control that with a flamingo feather razor. You're just gonna scrape down and the brow will stop the razor. It kind of creates, like if you just do it gently, the hair will stop where it needs to and it'll clean up all those little baby hairs that are just getting out of control up there. Another thing you can do is to have a little pair of scissors. Brush your brow hairs straight up, okay? And if they're so long that they're unwieldy up here, you can just take your little scissors and trim them. You don't have to excavate them. And for the love of Pete, brush them up. Brushing them up, even if you don't do anything else, is going to give you so much more lift than having the hairs go sideways.